All right, ladies and gentlemen, the end is near for things. We are at the end of semester 1, hence time to go over the final review. Now again, this is going to be a parallel to the multiple choice part of your final that we take on finals day. But I didn't give you any multiple choices here because what fun is that? So your final will actually be a little easier than this. So let's kind of breeze through here. We're going to look at the first 20 here in part 1 and simplify. Now notice, there's no equals, okay? So literally, all I'm going to do is do a lot of distributing and combining of like terms here. So, 8x minus 24, and that's a negative 2 that I'm distributing through. And negative times negative is positive. It's those little things that make or break you on things like this. Find the terms through like. Again, if you need to go to the calculator to double check, there's nothing wrong with that. We're ready and raring to go. Life simple. Okay, that's especially true when we get down here to number 2. When I get down here, again, fractions, we don't want to keep going with decimals and fractions and stuff because then you get yourself into a big problem because we're not going decimally on this because decimals aren't going to be one of your answers. So remember, look for the different values that are down in the denominator. Notice the 5's there twice. I didn't do it twice. And just multiply those together. So here, 4 times 5 is 20, times 3 is 60. That's the value I would go ahead and multiply through by. And remember, what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by what's on top and then divide by what's on the bottom. So 60 times 1 is 60, divided by 4 is 15. 60 times 2 is 120, divided by 5 is 24. 60 times 3 is 180, divided by 5 is 36. And 60 times 4 is 240, divided by 3 is 80. And again, if you need the calculator to do that, that's fine. Just keep reminding yourself, multiply by the top, divide by the bottom. And now it's just a regular old Algebra 1 problem. I want to get all my x's to one side, so I'm going to minus the 15x over. Once I get all my x's together and on one side using an opposite, we'll go ahead, we'll isolate it. So we're going to add the 80 to the other side. And then don't freak out if you get to the end here and you do your division and you don't get something nice. Okay, because remember, this is going to be multiple choice. But I'll be pretty safe in saying it's probably not going to be a decimal, the answer that you see. It's probably not going to be 4.95. It's worth the math enter. Notice it doesn't change. So I would just leave it as a fraction. And I'm good. All right. Now, the main reason behind doing these reviews is going over some of the pitfalls that kind of have gotten you in the past to make sure it doesn't happen again. Number 3 is a prime example of this. When I get here, I look and I notice, hey, why do you put parentheses around those? Because when I go to cross multiply, I'm supposed to multiply the 6 times the x and the minus 5. I multiply the 3 by the x and the plus 3. If I just do the first term, I'm not going to get the right answer, even though that will probably be one of the choices. So distribute the 6 to both terms on the left. Distribute the 3 to both terms on the right. And then again, we're back to Algebra 1. Minus my 3x over. And again, if you want to write that out a little more, you can. Now that my x's are all on one side, I want to isolate them. So I'll add the 30 back to the other side. And I'll divide by 3. Rock on, rock on, rock on. Okay, so as long as I'm just watching for some of those little things, those first problems won't be too bad. When I get to number 4, okay, solve for r. Well, to solve for r, I got to get r on a side by itself first. So what do I do to get rid of the plus 5? You know it. We minus the 5 to the other side. And then again, since the job is to get r by itself, what am I doing to r? I'm multiplying it by 7. What's the opposite of multiplying? Divide. Good to go. Same thing on number 5. Now, number 5, a little more caution, and we've done these a lot, but it's been a little while. Both of these terms have m. M cannot be part of my answer. It doesn't work that way. So, what do my two terms have in common? They both have an m. So what do I multiply m by to get m? 1. What do I multiply m by to get MAB? Well, I already got the m, so I need the AB. And notice now I only have one m there. This is good because that's what I'm trying to solve for. So what am I doing to m right now if I want to get it by itself? I'm multiplying it by that set of parentheses. And what's its opposite? To divide. And I'm good. So no m in the answer. Okay, if I do that, something's gone pretty badly wrong. All right, let's see what else we got rolling here. Rental car company charges a daily rental fee of $62. Again, that's no matter if I drive 1 mile or 1,000. It's probably a little bit of an exaggeration. Plus 75 cents for each mile driven. Write an equation that describes the relation between miles and cost. Okay, so my cost is going to be my rental fee, which again is the same no matter what, so I just leave that alone. Plus 75 cents per mile. So if the miles change, that's going to change my cost. Okay? And that's all I need. That's the big part, though. Just remember there's no variable that's going to go with my 62. All right, we're doing pretty good here so far, I would say. So number 7, solve. Okay, absolute value. 2 answers rolling here. So first one I get from basically just recopying what I have without the bars. Second answer is going to come from changing the sign of my answer. So, otherwise, get that in there. I'm going to minus my 5 over and divide by 3. Second one, same thing. And I'll warn you, as I did before, don't freak out if it's not a whole number. Minus the 5 over. Divide by 3. And again, answers that'll be on the final are going to be in fractional form for the most part. So don't go to the decimal. Little math enter goes a long way. Now, number 8, we even gave you a good hint here. Solve and show, answer, and interval notation. You can graph the solution to assist you. Never a bad thing to get a picture of something to help with what you're doing. So when I'm graphing this, it's nice if I remember that because it's less than, it's an and that ands typically look like this. And just kind of as a heads up, because you never know, we might change the order around when it gets to be the final. Let's say instead it was greater than. That would be an or statement, and they'd be going out from each other. But this one is and, so we'll sort of block that over here to the side so we don't wonder. So how's this work? Again, 2 expressions. First one, just write it without the absolute value bars. Second one, we do 2 things. We flip the arrow, we switch the sign. Got to do both. And then we just solve. So as far as the algebra part goes, and the nice thing about, having the multiple choices is if you make some silly error, hopefully your answer won't show up. So I get here, and I go, okay, got a fraction. It's okay. Because remember, if I go to draw a picture, and the picture's not a bad idea. Okay, the negative number would come before. Positive number would be on the right. And the and, if I remember, tells me to color in, but let's say I don't remember that part. X is less than or equal to 6. Less than is left. My arrow going left. X is greater than or equal to. And I'd see they crash in the middle. So my interval notation, since I go left to right, let's start at negative 24/5 and end up at 6. And we're good. So nothing too awful so far, I'd hope. 9, evaluate, find the answer. Now, it doesn't mean you plug the negative 5 or the 4 into both. Okay? This just means, okay, here x equals negative 5. Pick the expression that matches the inequality. Is negative 5 less than 2? Yes, it is. So I'm going to plug the negative 5 into the first expression. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Minus 2 is negative 17. So then I start a brand new problem on the second one. Okay, so if x equals 4, is 4 less than 2? Nope. Is 4 greater than 2? Yep. So I plug it into the second one. And again, the negative doesn't go away. I'm just replacing the x, which is 4. And I can get my answer that way. Now 10, our last one on this page is going to sound a little weird. Because again, remember, you're going to have multiple choices on the final. So this year, the senior class at high school A and senior class at high school B planned trips. Senior class at high school A rented and filled 4 vans and 5 buses with 165 students. 4 vans, 5 buses, 165 students. High school B rented and filled 3 vans and 7 buses with 205 students. That would be my system of equations. 2 variables, 2 equations. But I don't have to solve it. It's just going to be set up and you've got to finish that off. So again, nothing that's going to be too bad as far as problems go. All right, let's flip over here. Okay, factor. Again, you've got your flow chart to help a little bit with this. So again, just a reminder on how this works. It's going to be about multiplying and adding when we get here. So let's see. Multiply to a negative, one of each sign. Add to a negative means the negative number is going to be bigger, that they're 3 apart. Now again, I may have to go to the calculator with this. And I just start dividing small numbers in, kind of seeing how this goes, until I run into that magic pair that's 3 apart, since the signs are different. I find it. Negative is the bigger number. I'm good to go. Nice. But always be on the lookout. Oh, number 12. The golden rule. Okay? Largest number that divides into both, in this case 8. And we'll talk about that in a second here. And if they both have variables, this one with the smaller exponent. Once I get that, I already got my 8. 1x to get to 2. I need one more. 8 times what gets me to 48.6. And I already have the x. That's all I can do. Now you're like, well, what if I forget and I take 4 instead? You might get lucky and that may not be one of the choices. Okay, but always look, because if there's something more I can take out of the parentheses, that means I haven't done something quite right. When I get to 13, hopefully you notice that the 2 numbers are very special. They're both perfect squares. But again, you'll have your flow chart to help. What do I square to get 9? 3. What do I square to get x? X squared, excuse me, x. And what do I square to get 49? 7. And once I have those values, and I've got my flow chart working here, Again, difference of squares. There's my a and my b. So my a value goes first. My b value goes second. And 1 plus and 1 minus. Boom! And I'm good. Rolling, rolling, rolling. All right, describe how the graph of the function absolute value of x minus 7 plus 3 is related to the graph. In other words, what are the shifts? What does the negative 7 mean and what does the 3 mean? Well, this is my left and right. Out here, this is my up and down. But remember, on the inside, it's the opposite of what you'd think. So negative, you'd think left, but it's not. It's right 7. Okay, 3, you would think it's up, and it is. And we're good there. And as we stay with our graphs and shifts, name the vertex of the following. Okay, remember, my vertex is at HK. The opposite of H, the opposite of 6 is negative 6. And again, the plus K just means keep the sign. And I'm good. Nothing too bad. Okay, what is the axis of symmetry of the following parabola? Remember, the axis of symmetry is just the x value of your vertex. So if I know my vertex here, similar to what it is up here, okay, like, wait, that's absolute value though. But it's very similar with my quadratic. Notice how they make all these connections. Still the opposite of H, still K, but what I care about is this. Just the x value, and we're good. More factoring, basically just like number 11 was. So I look, it's a negative, so I know it's one of each. Negative in the middle for my add number, which means the negative will be bigger, and that they're 7 apart. So 18, I'm looking for the one that's 2 apart. It's 2 apart, 7 apart. Negative will be the bigger one because of my sign, and I'm good. 18, when we go to solve. Again, in a situation like this, I would isolate. So I'd add my 16 over. I'd divide by 4, because again, I'm trying to get my x squared term by itself. Now, here's the biggie. Because I'll guarantee one of the answer choices will be just 3. Hopefully you remember the squared means there's 2 answers, which means I got to have plus minus. Otherwise, bad. It's those little things that make or break us. Again, hopefully with the multiple choice, it kind of clicks that memory in and helps you to think about that. All right, down the stretch run here for our first breakdown. All right, solve. Again, don't distribute the squared. The idea is to work on getting to the x. So since it's stuck in the parentheses, I'm going to do a square root. And remember, it's going to be plus minus on my square root, because again, it's a square I'm working with. But wait, it takes one more step from there. I want to get x by itself, so I'm going to minus the 7 over. And before you think you're done, you'd probably look at the answers we had here and you wouldn't match up with the answer. You're like, but I've done everything right so far. But this radical still breaks down. Because remember, if you can find one of your perfect squares, flowchart, that you can use as a factor, okay, but one of them has to be a perfect square. You can't use 2 and 12 here. That wouldn't do you any good. Because 4 is my perfect square that breaks down. So my actual final answer here Again, the 2 out of radical jail, 6 still in it. That's what your final answer would look like. So finally, last piece here, completing the square, we need to get our x's together. We need to get our y's together. And we need to get our constant term to the other side. So, once I get to here, I do my little side work. And again, for my shortcut people, you've got to be careful because a lot of you tend to forget that you need to add those blanks on the side with your constant term as well. So here's what we're doing. We're taking our b value, we're dividing it by 2, and we're squaring it. And just like when we were doing these originally, this is going to help me out in several ways. First, it gives me what to put in my blank here, even though I'm a little squished. And it's also going to help me out on my next step when I have to do x, and I just take the number from my parentheses. Okay, that'll get me set up on that part. Y, same thing. Take my b value, divide it by 2, and square it. And just like I did with my x's, I can get my binomial square by taking the sign along with the value with my y. And then I just add these up on the other side. Okay, there's my standard form. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up the first half of our review for the multiple choice final.